A lot of people liked the show Designing Women. That being said, there was another star on the show who was even more famously huge. We're going to talk about Delta Burke. At the time, she was one of the most potential TV stars. A lot of people really liked Suzanne Sugarbaker in Designing Women. Fans of the show loved Suzanne because she was funny and had a wild personality. That made a big impact on people who watched that show. Burke became a well-known name in the 1980s and 1990s because of this. Fans knew a lot about her, but not everything. It's not just who Delta Burke is that makes up her life. While her character on the show had a happy and perfect life, hers was anything but. She had personal problems and problems at work. This is what the video for today is going to be about. What really happened to Delta Burke and her story that no one knows. Now let's begin. Delta Burke was born in Orlando, Florida on July 30th, 1956. She had only one mother who raised her. In the end, her mother Jean married Frederick Burke, a real estate agent from Orlando. Frederick was a nice person and he took Delta in. You might be shocked to learn that Delta doesn't know who her real dad is. That seems to show a very interesting but sad side of her life. Jean and Frederick have 3 kids. Delta is the oldest. Jonathan is her younger brother and Jennifer is her little sister. Delta was a bright student who had a lot of promise from the start. She went to Colonial High School and finished in 1974. When she was still there, her classmates told her she was the most likely to do well. That was pretty clear. Not only was she smart, but she also won a beauty show put on by the Orlando Fire Department in 1972. Delta won the title of Miss Flame, but that wasn't the end of her, and she wanted more. She then went on to represent the whole state and win the title of State Miss Flame. Pretty cool, right? Now wait until you hear more about her in the next parts of this video. But the things we talked about earlier aren't her favorite accomplishments. The most important and favorite one was near the end of her senior year of high school. Delta went on to win 1974 Miss Florida. That was her most important accomplishment. That day she wrote history. Delta, who is only 18, is the youngest woman in history to hold that title. She also had a lot of great chances come her way after she won Miss Florida. The Miss America organization gave her a small grant. It was possible for her to go to the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art thanks to this grant. Getting into this academy changed the course of her whole journey. She won the 1974 Miss Florida pageant and then went on to be on the famous ABC show Bozo the Clown. Bozo the Clown was shot in Orlando, where she grew up. She was also in the World Football League Bowl in 1974, which was a big year for her. Louis Bice took a movie of her there while she was Miss Florida. After that, the clip was first shown in an episode of the 2001 show Lost Treasures of NFL Films. Fans felt like they were back in time to when Delta was a young star on the rise, just before her big break on TV. It was with the Chisholms, a CBS Western drama. Belle Sue Chisholm was played by Delta. After that, she showed how good she was at comedy when she was in the TV show Filthy Rich as Kathleen Beck. Kathleen was the role of a young widow who is smart and wants to succeed. It came out in 1982. After that, from 1984 to 1986, she played football team owner Diane Barrow on the TV show First and 10. She is a very versatile and talented actress who can take on any part she is given. These roles are very important to her acting career because they shaped it. Delta Burke had just landed a part in 1986 that would mark her forever in the world of TV. The part of Suzanne Sugarbaker in the CBS show Designing Women. 2 things made her worthy of this part. To begin, she was a wonderful performer. Second, she had to make the tough decision to quit the show she was working on at the time. First and 10, the show. Delta and Linda Bloodworth Thomason had worked together before on the show Filthy Rich. Linda made the show Designing Women. The comedy show Filthy Rich was about 4 women in Atlanta who run an interior design business. Burke was one of the main characters. Delta and Dixie Carter were both there. Dixie got the lead part in Designing Women as well. Fans loved Designing Women, but that wasn't the case when the show first aired. Early on, things didn't go well. The first season was so bad that it was temporarily canceled due to low numbers. Years later, in 1989, when it teamed up with another show called Murphy Brown, things changed for the show. Burke got a lot of praise and became a big star. Fans really liked her as Suzanne Sugarbaker, and she was nominated twice in a row for the Primetime Emmy Award for lead actor in a comedy show. Other show leads for women never went this far. Burke was the only person who had this honor before. This didn't mean that the other women on the show did badly. Alice Ghostley was one of the actors who played Bernice Clifton on the show a lot. She was nominated for a Supporting Actress Award in 1992. It was strange that Burke quit this show so quickly, even though she was a big hit on it. Delta Burke talked about her sudden exit from the show after more than a decade, when she was 67 years old. She played Suzanne Sugarbaker for 5 seasons. There were a lot of reports that she quit in 1991 because she didn't agree with Linda Bloodworth Thomason, who made the show. Burke remembers that Linda and her husband Harry Thompson hurt her mentally in a number of ways. things turned out to be very bad. But before she finally left, Burke had also thought about leaving the show before. Let's talk about that. Burke was thrilled when she first joined the show. She loved her part on the show and all of her co-stars. Things began to change behind the scenes as time went on. Burke didn't go into specifics, but she did drop a hint. This, along with the stress and pressure she brought, was too much to handle. Burke says she would have liked to leave but wasn't able to, giving us more information about Delta's friendship with Linda, the creator of Beautiful Women, and her anger. They already worked together, as you know. That being said, Burke and Linda had a love-hate relationship. The mean things people said about her weight were another big reason she left. Burke was weak in this way, and she admits that she didn't know how to handle the mean things people were saying about her because she had gained weight. People said horrible things in the comments, like that Burke was pregnant, and in one case, a fan grabbed her coat and said something horrible. Let us see how fat you are, that's what he said. This is enough to break anyone. Burke had to deal with that all the time from her friends, who often told her she looked bad for getting fat. She knew how to take criticism, but this was too much for her. Burke remembers that her mood changed a lot when things got tough on set. When she thinks back on her time in Hollywood, she says that at first, she wanted to be popular and get as much attention as possible. Though, after all the bad things, that changed. She says she wished she could go back in time and do everything again before things got bad. It was so bad that Burke had to go to the hospital because he was having a breakdown. In this case, she had already won the Emmy nods. The thrill of being nominated outweighed the stress she was under. Delta talked about leaving the show in an episode of Entertainment Tonight in 1990. She said that the working conditions and atmosphere on the set were terrible. The shift was horrible and lasted almost 15 hours a day. Things got so out of hand that the doors had to be blocked so that no character could leave the set. Besides that, she and Burke's close friend Dixie Carter had a big fight. Also, Dixie was in the show. She also walked down the aisle with Burke when she married Gerald McCraney. They broke up because Dixie was siding with the makers in this fight. Burke's bad relationship with Dixie and the people who made Designing Women led to her firing in 1991, when the 5th season was over. Do you remember the fight Burke had to lose weight? She really suffered and she went in a bad direction. You will be shocked by what took place. Have you ever felt unsafe and wished you could do something about it? That was our right, all of us. But that can go in a weird direction sometimes. That's what took place with Delta Burke. After being teased by the media and her friends, she chose to do something about it. Did you know that she had to deal with negativity and haters before she designed women? She was making filthy rich at the time. Burke was in London going to acting school when she was given a weight loss pill by her doctor. She had side effects from the pills that made her heart beat faster. But Burke ignored them because she wanted to be like everyone else in Hollywood. She tried to find those pills again when she got back to the US, but learned that they were against the law. Burke was desperate, though, and she wanted to lose weight anyway, so she turned to her friend from Filthy Rich for help. Her friend told her about something called Black Beauties. It was also against the law. No matter what, Burke started taking these every morning as part of her everyday routine. These stopped working for her because her body got used to them, so her Filthy Rich friend told her to try something stronger. It turned out to be crystal meth. However, crystal meth wasn't well known at that time. Burke had no idea what she was getting herself into. Someone at work showed her how to use it. The way was to cut it up and snort it. Burke said she wasn't going to laugh at anything. She began taking it with orange juice. Take it after mixing it. She also went days without eating anything to lose weight. What had happened, though, even after all this work? Things didn't change. She was still getting mean people and trolls. Some people said she was fat. Some people said her butt or legs were too big. Burke says she was too nervous back then because she looked like a goddess, but now that she thinks about it, she shouldn't have been. It was 1992, and Burke was given the chance to have her own show. There was a show called Delta, and Burke played a country music star who wants to become famous. Burke was a wonderful actor who always tried to make every part she played wonderful. It wasn't any different. For this one, she bleached her hair blonde. This shows how much she cares about her job. The show did have one season, though, before it was canceled. Do you remember the fight Burke had with the person who made the show Designing Women? She made up with her in 1995, though, and came back to play her famous role Suzanne Sugarbaker again. This time, though, it was for a show called Women of the House that is based on creating women. This show also ended way too soon, which was sad. Don't forget Dixie? Her friend turned against her. They finally got along after more than a year of fighting, but in the end, they were seen together again on the TV show Family Law, where Burke was a guest star. Just so you know, Dixie was a regular on Family Law. As the years went by, Burke continued to show promise by getting major parts in a lot of TV films. What Women Want is one of Burke's most well-known pictures. It came out in 2000. In this movie, she worked with Mel Gibson. At this point in her life, Burke was going through a tough time because she was told she had diabetes. She also had a lead role in the 2000 series Dag with David Alan Grier. It was hard for her to lose weight again. It was harder this time because she had diabetes. Burke wasn't just into films and TV shows. Her first show on Broadway was in 2003. She played Mrs. Mears in the show Thoroughly Modern Millie. Burke wasn't the first person who was thought of for this part. Harriet Harris and Terry Burrell played this part before. Burke played this part until February 2024. Then her friend Dixie Carter took over. Burke then played Truvy in another Broadway show of Steel Magnolias. From April to July 2005, she had a 4-month run. Burke was working on Broadway, but that didn't mean she wasn't interested in TV anymore. In Boston Legal, where she played Bella Horowitz, she was seen on TV again. Burke was in the 2008 movie Bridal Fever, which came out in February 2008. After that, in March 2012, Counterculture offered Burke a job. She hurt herself badly when she fell while she was filming, and the work had to stop. Sadly, it never came back to life. There you have it, the best parts of Delta Burke's career. Now let's talk about her private life. We'll also tell you what she's doing now. Delta got married to the person she loved most, Daniel McCraney, on May 28, 1989. He is a wonderful person. Remember how hard it was for her to lose weight and stop using drugs. Since then, McCraney has been by her side. He was there for her when things were worst. When things seemed out of hand, he was there for her and made things livable. Burke will always be thankful for him. She told Gerald about it and said he liked her for who she was. She remembered that even her mother and grandma, who were related to her, looked at her and judged her, but Gerald never did. Burke says that the fact that he never cared about how she looked is very important to her. Burke and Gerald don't have any children together, but Gerald does have children from a previous marriage. The McCraney and Burke family lives in Los Angeles, California. They own homes in Colorado, Louisiana, Telluride, and New Orleans, among other places. Burke's trouble with diabetes got worse. She is now dealing with type 2 diabetes and is very open about it. Burke is not only a great actor, but she also fights hard for gay rights. This is clear because she has worked with Del Shores a lot over the years on shows like Sordid Lives and Southern Baptist Sissies. Del writes plays and films as a gay man. A Nashville talk show was also going to have her on, and gay star Leslie Jordan was going to be there with her. But the people in charge of the show thought that the topics they were going to talk about might upset their conservative fans, so Burke and Leslie were not asked. People who are interested in when she started supporting the LGBTQ community can look back to when she was in acting school in London. Jennifer, her sister, made her want to help the community even more. Jennifer is a bisexual woman. Burke did more than just support the gay community and act. She also tried her hand at fashion and design. Delta Burke Design is the name of her business, which is based in New York. The shop Burke and her husband own for old things is in Collins, Mississippi. It's safe to say that Burke is also a business owner. If we dig deeper into her personal life, she is also honest about how hard it is for her to stop storing things. Compulsive collecting is loving your things too much. You care too much about your own things. As a way to deal with things on her own, Burke goes to therapy. She remembers that she used to have 27 storage boxes full of her stuff. That's all there is to it. That is what Delta Burke really went through. Her story shows how to be persistent and strong, and it should motivate everyone to get back up after every fall they take in life. Also, what was your favorite Delta Burke moment? Please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.